12th Amendment, passed by Congress December 9th, 1803, ratified June 15th, 1804. Note: a portion of Article 2, Section 1 of the Constitution was superseded by the 12th Amendment. The electors shall meet in their respective states and vote by ballot for President and Vice President, one of whom at least shall not be an inhabitant of the same state with themselves. They shall name in their ballots the person voted for as President, and in distinct ballots the person voted for as Vice President. And they shall make distinct lists of all persons voted for as President, and of all persons voted for as Vice President, and the number of votes for each, which lists they shall sign and certify, and transmit sealed to the seat of the government of the United States, directed to the President of the Senate. The President of the Senate shall, in the presence of the Senate and House of Representatives, open all the certificates, and the votes shall then be counted. The person having the greatest number of votes for President shall be the President, if such number be a majority of the whole number of electors appointed, and if no person have such a majority, then from the persons having the highest number not exceeding 3 on the list of those voted for as President, the House of Representatives shall choose immediately by ballot the President. But in choosing the President, the votes shall be taken by states, the representation from each state having 1 vote. A quorum for this purpose shall consist of a member or members from 2/3 of the states, and a majority of all the states shall be necessary to a choice. And if the House of Representatives shall not choose a president whenever the right of choice shall devolve upon them, before the 4th day of March next following, then the Vice President shall act as President, as in the case of death or other constitutional disability of the President. The person having the greatest number of votes as Vice President shall be the Vice President, if such a number be a majority of the whole number of electors appointed, and if no person have a majority, then from the 2 highest numbers on the list, the Senate shall choose the Vice President. A quorum for the purpose shall consist of 2/3 of the whole number of senators, and a majority of the whole number shall be necessary to a choice. But no person constitutionally ineligible to the office of President shall be eligible to that of Vice President of the United States. The section in brackets was superseded by Section 3 of the 20th Amendment. So, okay.
Let's break that down a bit, shall we?
So, this is the Aaron Burr Amendment. Because, you notice this was 1803.
Yeah, this was like the 4th election.
Yeah. In 1802, in 1800, the presidential election was between John Adams and Thomas Jefferson.
Or
17, yeah. So 1796 was John Adams and Thomas Jefferson. Do I have that right?
Yeah, Thomas got 2nd place. He was VP.
Yeah, so he was vice president despite being of a different political party. In 1800, Thomas Jefferson and Aaron Burr were tied in the Congress, despite the fact that nobody really wanted Aaron Burr as president. They wanted him as vice president. There was a consensus that Aaron Burr would, in point of fact, not be a very good president. This is not wrong. Aaron Burr was a nut. So everyone wanted to be sure that this kind of nonsense stopped happening. It made the government less functional if the president and vice president disagreed on things.
You mean that they couldn't get lucky again with a Washington Adams thing again, like they've been the last 3 times?
Well, the thing with Washington was that he didn't really have a political party. And when people voted for Washington, it wasn't because they believed in his policies. It's because, oh, look, it's George Washington. Ooh, don't fall.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, I was wondering the lines that happened still today, like President-elect Trump and Vice President-elect Harris.
Well, in this case, it would have been Vice President-elect Walz, but yeah. Or no, yeah, no, if it were the runner-up, yeah, no, that would have been, whoa. 8 years ago, President Trump and Vice President Clinton would have been a lot.
President
The
Biden.
system just didn't work. This is the First Amendment of the Constitution that, in my opinion, got passed because part of the Constitution was just broken.
No, I guess even funnier when President Biden, Vice President Trump, where he's like, hey, we may not get a vote in the Senate.
Yeah. No, it when you start posing these hypotheticals, you start to see why this amendment exists. Because the system as it was set up was just a recipe for disaster.
But it took him 4 times. It took him 4 turns to try it, to do it, to realize this.
Well, the first 2 times don't count. Because it didn't matter who George Washington's vice president was, and everybody knew who was going to be president.
Yeah, but it started mad a little bit with Adams and Jefferson.
Adams and Jefferson, they were like, oh, maybe this doesn't work very well. And then
it can't get any worse, though. Then it got worse.
Yeah. Then with Jefferson and Burr, they realized exactly what was wrong with the system as originally set up. So that was when the amendment got passed to resolve it.
And again, less than a year.
Less than a year. Did not take very long at all. And I mean, it was passed by Congress. It took a while after the 1800 election, but it's clear that the conversation started with the 1800 election.
And it passed before the 1804 election.
Yeah, the 1804 was the first election under which this system was in place, which is,
So now, question: Do they run separately now, or are they on one ticket?
So the party system in the United States was still evolving in 1800. Because George Washington was actually opposed to the idea of political parties. And in the early days of the country, it was generally believed that political parties would be a temporary situation because surely nobody would find that many things that they all agreed about. And there would be, well, I agree with this person about, the rate of tariffs, but I agree with this person about, congressional financing of the roads or whatever.
Because I think that's one. The only 2 parties I know of were the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists.
So at this point,
and then before that,
Jefferson.
Before that, it was the Rebels and the Loyalists.
Yes, well, Jefferson was officially running. He's considered to be a member of the Democratic Republican Party, which is not to be confused with the current Democratic Party or the current Republican Party. His opponent, Charles Pinckney, was running as a Federalist. But Jefferson was really popular for a whole bunch of reasons. He was, he was Thomas Jefferson, just for starters. And the Louisiana Purchase had happened and was very popular, and the economy was really strong.
After this, it did, but this is before.
Well, this is 1804.
This is before. I mean, the first time.
Oh yeah, no, the first time he basically won because people didn't like John Adams very much. John Adams was obnoxious and disliked.
I was wondering. It says I think it says you vote for the president and you vote for the vice president, like two separate elections or something.
Yeah. Technically, it is theoretically possible under the Constitution that we could end up with President Trump and Vice President Walz.
Or vice versa, like President Harris
and Vice President Vance. Yeah, technically that is still theoretically possible. However, since when you are put for the president and vice president on your ballot, the way your state chooses electors is as a slate.
As a group.
It's a ticket. You are voting for two people paired together. So in practical terms, unless you have unfaithful electors, and those would be some bonkers unfaithful electors, you are not going to get a split party presidency and vice presidency anymore.
Right. But technically, it can be. So nothing has been.
Ain't nothing in the rules that says it can't happen. It won't, but it could. And it is worth noting that you have to be eligible to be president in order to be vice president, which I don't think is actually in the Constitution. But it means that, for example, all those people who are like, well, Obama could run for vice president. No, he can't. Because he is ineligible to be president again.
So does that mean that rules that so can someone not born be vice president then? I mean not foreign.
You cannot be a non-native born citizen and be vice president because that would make you not eligible to be president.
Okay, so that okay, that's there. Okay.
Yeah, you can't have Vice President Schwarzenegger. Because
if something happens, you can't be president.
Right. You know, there are a lot of people in politics right now who are not eligible to be president, and they would not be eligible to be vice president. You know, I can't remember how old Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is, but younger than I am. Yeah, born in 1989, which I think... Oh, she is just now eligible. She could have run for president in the most recent election. She turned 35 about a month before the election.
Our first millennial president.
Oh, yeah. We're going to skip right to Gen X, and we're going to end up with her as president. I feel certain of this.
Yeah, we mentioned that earlier. I talked to my friend about that. I mentioned earlier. There hasn't even been a Gen X president yet.
There's never been a Gen X president. Yeah. I watched a special that tried to claim that Obama was, but he is a boomer. They were fiddling with the generational divide in order to claim Obama.
Like they say he was one of those micro gens between Gen X and Boomer, whatever that's called, the Jones. I think it's called the Jones generation.
Yeah, I have no idea, but he's enough older than I am that he is not Gen X.
Yeah, I claim the Zennial title between X and Millennial.
The sad thing is we're about to get our first Gen X vice president, and he's still a terrible person.
Was Biden a boomer? Or was he like a silent?
Oh gosh,
or was he a silent Gen before boomer even?
Let's see. He was born. We'll see if the page will load for me. 42. So yeah, so he's silent generation. Trump is a boomer. He was born 46.
So just made the cut.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is depressing.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go on. Let's move on. Let's see what else is there to talk about. So this is where they talk about the House picked the president if there's no majority. Is that before?
That is already in the Constitution at this point.
Okay.
That is in Article 2.
Okay.
The number of potential candidates has gone down because it was 5 in Article 2, Section 1, and now it's only 3. So, sorry, Green Party, you're still not going to be able to be president even if it goes to the House. Because libertarians generally get more votes than the Green Party.
So at the end of it, talking about the death of presidents at the end part.
Yeah. So it still hadn't happened yet, but it is in the Constitution that the vice president shall act as president. It does not officially say he shall become president, which is a minor distinction, but would become a big thing until we get to the 20th Amendment. It was generally, by the time of the 20th Amendment, accepted that that's what happened, but it's not official that you get sworn in and you are now president. Everybody, we did that, but it wasn't what was said in words in the Constitution. It was clearly very much, well, in practical terms, we have to do it this way. And nobody got around to putting it into an amendment until the whole FDR situation.
Yeah, and it wasn't even until like this is the 4th election. It wasn't until like the ninth election, or the 9th president, that this even came up as an issue.
Yeah,
with Harrison and Tyler.
Yeah, William Henry Harrison. He died in 30 days. I wonder how many more people remember Harrison because of The Simpsons than anything else. To be fair, there's not a lot else to remember him for.
Yeah.
Because he got sick on his inauguration day and died in 30 days.
Yeah, but actually, I read a thing that was he died of dysentery, not of pneumonia.
He didn't die of pneumonia, it's true, but he did get sick.
Yeah.
Right around his election day, before he had time to do anything.
But yeah, everyone he died because he was staying running too long. He might have affected him, but he died of bad water.
Yeah, he did give the longest inauguration speech in U.S. history. That is true, but it's not what killed him. He died of enteric fever, according to Wikipedia, which is typhoid or paratyphoid. We don't know which one it was because medicine in 1841 was not what it is now.
Or was it? And it wasn't because of a curse.
Yeah, no, it wasn't the curse of Tecumseh.
Because if it was, Reagan, Bush Jr., and Biden broke those curses.
Yeah. Reagan actually came really close several times, and in an era with more primitive medicine, would have died. From being shot, and then he had a couple of tumors removed during his presidency.
Let's see. I think Bush came close during 9/11. Probably that plane was aiming for. I think that plane might be aiming for one of the White House things.
Yeah, but he wasn't in the White House at the time.
He was in Florida.
Yeah, reading to school children. And I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't blame him for freezing a bit when he heard that news.
Yeah.
But we all know where he was at the time. Except for those idiots who want to know why Obama wasn't in the Oval Office at the time.
Because he wasn't even a senator or
He
representative
wasn't
at the
even
time?
a senator.
Was he representative yet, or not even that?
Well, he was never a U.S. representative. I think he was in the Illinois State House at the time.
Okay.
But yeah.
So this is a long one. Anything else to talk about, though? Even though it's
No, the thing is, it's long, but it's mostly rehashing a lot of the stuff that's in Article 2. A lot of the text from this is pretty much the same as text that's in Article 2. It's just being clarified and a few minor changes.
But once again, it was a passed and ratified. I don't know how it might take a while to pass because it's 1800, 1803. I don't know how long it takes to pass things in Congress, but
depends on how determined Congress is to get it through.
But between passing it and ratifying it, it was not even a year.
Yeah,
barely 6 months. Well, it was half a year.
Well, once it was established that they were going to fix the situation, they fixed the situation.
So when next we meet, we'll talk about one I think everyone agrees with, at least
you would hope, but I don't think they do.